So I think now we should take some questions and have some discussion. So I see a few hands.
This is one of
So
two
it's
over
three
here.
over here, and we'll get, all right. And we want to try to have as much time for, talking with each other as we can.
I got one question. It got to do with language. Because when you talked about the root cause, when the march started, it was called Death to the Klan, right? Was that the march?
That was one of the slogans that we used. Yes, it was.
And was that, I mean, we know about dog whistle politics. Was this a reverse of that, where the police used it against the Klan, saying that, all of a sudden you're going to be shot up or beat up by, black folks, the one that they thought they always controlled? I mean, was that ever mentioned?
Go ahead.
Actually, when we went to court, they raised that argument in court.
Right.
And when I was on the stand, they asked what did we mean, and I used two examples. I'm from North Carolina A&T State University. I know you had to say it. And we had a powerful defense. And when other teams come to play, we say, here come Blue Death. It didn't mean we were going out and shoot the other team. It meant we were going to defeat them within the context of a game called football. And when I explained this to the judge and said that when we said death to the Klan is defined by racism, so we meant death to racism. If we did it again, we'd say it that way, so that people can't play word games with you. People know that we weren't planning to kill no Klan, that we were focused on corn mills. And the Klan passed out leaflets and stuff. They're saying that the union is just a front for black people to get in charge of white people. And so we have to say death to that kind of ideology, death to that outlook. That's what we were talking about. So don't let people flip the script on you. We did our best on that. But let me hear some other questions, or let us hear some other questions. I got stuff I want to say. I don't have people like this around me often.
Roz, are you going to call on people?
My question kind of dovetails into what you just mentioned. In the years since, whether through the Truth and Reconciliation Commission or the investigation, was there any culpability found on the part of the actual businesses that were being organized against as a part of this attack? Oh, the textile mills, etc.
You want to speak to that?
Not in court, no. And part of why we did have the truth process was because basically all the traditional structures had failed us.
Mm-hmm.
But being organized as those who cannot rest until freedom comes, we continue. So we looked around us and found a model from our brothers and sisters in South Africa and also Peru and other places. What did happen is we had conversation more and more, because even before the truth process, we organized one time a night of 1,000 conversations, which means that you invited 3, 4, 20, whatever of your closest friends over maybe dessert or meal or whatever, and talked about some of these things. We went into classrooms, we went into Sunday schools, we went wherever we were invited. Sometimes we weren't quite invited, but if there were an occasion to speak, we did. So during those times, we talked about our histories, and people started saying, wow, this was about labor. During the truth process, I remember a person saying, I didn't know this was about labor. And in fact, people who had been on the jury, the earlier 2 juries that were all white, said, if I'd known that, I mean, my granddaddy worked in the mills, and he was a union man, but they framed it as right versus left, communist versus Klan. And here you are in a southern right-to-work state, and you got nerve enough to call yourself a communist. So all kinds of images came to people, and folk would say, we fought against that in the war and what have you. So there was no understanding on the broad population of what communism was, is, can be. There was no understanding of what socialism was, is, can be. But we did hear from people who would, kind of come up to you and who happened to work in the homes of some of these mill owners, and then start recalling conversations they had overheard while serving dinner, who found things in trash cans and let us know that who in fact was running things. The mayor of that time was the main corporate attorney for Cone.
That's right. That's right.
Who called my husband the most dangerous man in Greensboro. I often tell him, well, if I read the newspaper, I sure wouldn't be married to you. So we have to know the truth for ourselves. But that's a very good question, no.
Yeah.
And that's part of why we have to educate ourselves, because it's not a quick thing. People just look at an agency or something like that and not understand what's behind it. Young brothers and sisters in Occupy Wall Street went pretty far with that, I think,
Yes.
with outlining that. So I hope that they're persisting in whatever ways in educating us.
Hi, thank you. I remember from my own perspective, 40 years ago, I was an organizer on the staff of the Amalgamated Clothing and Textile Workers Union, working on a J.P. Stevens campaign. And this horrible event that happened is something that was a tremendous shock to all of us. But I remember it also because of the example of courage that you and your colleagues set is something I've never forgotten myself. I'm humbled by it, and is one reason why I'm here today. But I want to shift gears just for, well, here's my point. Do you agree with what I'm about to say? That what we're hearing in the classroom is what we got to pay more and more attention to. What I mean is this. In the classes that I teach, in the young people I have in my class, my two granddaughters who are 8 and 10 years of age, who do they talk about? They talk about Greta from Norway. They talk about the threat to the very existence of a planet, the ability of the planet to provide life-sustaining force for all of us. And then we have to figure out a way to both engage our population, our sisters and brothers, around questions of equality and racism, but we also now have this element of protecting the planet in a new and profound way, because it's about our own survival. Thank you.
I love Greta. I absolutely
We all
love
love
that statement she just made recently was amazing. Where she just, since she was asked to speak to the leaders of the world, and she repeated herself several times, "How dare you?" It's beautiful. She said one thing at the very end. She said that if you continue to do what you're doing and you know what you're doing, then you're evil, and I can't believe that. I won't allow myself to believe that. I think she leaves out a certain possibility, and that is that the planet is being destroyed by capitalism itself, by the social order that's known as capitalism. It's destroying the world. And it is an evil system, absolutely, unconditionally, unqualified. Evil system. The people who follow that system do evil things because it's inherent in their job. If Mahatma Gandhi were made the head of ExxonMobil, he has to do what the economics require for the corporation to thrive. It's not a matter of personal evil, it's a systemic evil that has to be gone at. And I agree, I think that this is really animating millions of people around the world, and it's a truly global movement right now to try and save humanity in the face of this capitalist onslaught, which is what it is. They have been polluted. I don't know anybody over 50 who hasn't had at least 1 or 2 cancer scares. And a large percentage of the cancers that we get freaked out about are the result of pollution. And the pollution comes directly out of the social order because they can't make a lot of money if they clean up after themselves. Even our much vaunted Environmental Protection Agency cleans up after the corporations. So it's a way of putting the burden onto taxpayers because that's the way the whole thing is set up. It's set up to preserve and expand and strengthen the capitalist system. So as much as I love Greta, I think she needs to do a little more studying on that. I think she's great, and I think she's extraordinary. You know, she's like the left out kid. You know, there's always you have these leaders who are sort of the big shots, you know, the big men on campus types. She's the kid that's left behind, but she beats them all cold. She's fantastic. I just love watching her. So thank you for raising that. I think that's...
I want to say something. I want to thank you for the question and thank Paul for his response. In that question, it seems to me, well, let me say, whether it's in the question or not, we need to be careful about how we see the different expressions of pain and hurt in our society. Because they're all interrelated and overlapping.
That's right.
The danger is to pick one and decide to the exclusion of the other ones that that's the one that everybody needs to get behind.
That's right. There you go.
I think the challenge is how do you tie them together
Exactly.
in such a way that you know, you can work on a heart problem and a lung problem at the same time.
Yeah.
And I think if I can just say this, there may be not agreement on this, but let me just say it. My good friend William Barber, who see us as his parent in one sense, I think has put together a fine framework because this matter of racism is what faced some people right in their face. They have to fight it. Poverty face you right in your face. Militarism right in your face. Spending all of that money to protect the empire and to create enemies to come at you. And then there is ecological devastation.
That's right.
All of them are there. And all of them are tied together by the rulers in a mega false narrative. Right. You know, we have to create a mega alternative false narrative that tie them all together. So when I'm fighting on one front, it actually helps the other front if we do it in the right way. And I think that's the challenge that we face. We are in a culture that we've already been trained to be over against each other. We don't even have to think about it. That culture pushes that way. We have to think about how are we going to acknowledge the pain over here without negating the pain over there, and how do we bring all these things together in such a way that we aggregate, or give me a bigger word than that, that we bring together these different pieces that redounds to the welfare of the whole. That's the challenge.
Sounds like it's your people's campaign. Are there other? Go. No, go.
This is kind of a thank you, because I think you people and the movement around you is a big lesson. If you think of all the movements that have been smashed by the state over the years, and all the people who have ended up feeling isolated and alone, and even attacking each other. And then we think about you and Greensboro and sticking together and building a family. Because if we want to fight this system, we have to really be united in a very profound way and a very caring way. So thank you. I think all of us at one point have been in tears today, especially you.
Before we leave, I want to make one more statement.
Two more questions, sounds like.
Great. I just wanted to thank you all for the education that I received about this issue. Textile working in America is something that I've found really challenging to find. Like, I've been looking for textile mills in America.
It's in Korea and Mexico.
Yeah,
Right.
you have to go
So my
someplace
own
else.
personal, listening to this story, I wonder if the events that happened in 1979 were in some ways a catalyst to the decline of textile mills and textile workers in America.
I think it was really more the opposite. If you, and I'm not the best historian up here, but during that period, the decline in some of the economic predominance of the United States was occurring, and already those mills, as
That's
were
right.
others, were beginning to move south and
That's right.
That's what
abroad.
NAFTA was.
Yeah, that's NAFTA.
So, what'd you say?
I just said that was NAFTA and
Yeah,
others.
so I was trying to remember what, NAFTA.
Sorry.
North American Free Trade Agreement, or
And more, you have one more?
Hi, Reverend Johnson, Joyce, it's good to see you again. My name is Anthony Prince. I just want to say that on November 3rd, 1979, when we got to word of the Greensboro Massacre, I happened to be the chairman of the safety committee at Local 65 Steelworkers in Chicago. My local was named after Hilding Anderson, a Swede who was gunned down in the Memorial Day Massacre in 1937. So a group of us got in front of our local union meeting that very night, happened to fall on that very night, and we got a resolution passed because the fact of the matter is that all those years later, they were still gunning down people, and the police were collaborating in the massacre. People were trying to just improve lives for working people. I'm very proud of the fact that we were able to show that solidarity. But more importantly, I thank the heroes of Greensboro because all those years subsequently, that has been an inspiration to me personally and to those I've worked with over the years. And I was touched to go be in Greensboro and see this beautiful museum that you set up there that depicts this history. I would urge everyone here to make a visit down there and see even more than what you learned here tonight. And my question is, what do you guys think about the kind of where the unions are? You know what I'm saying? You guys were in the thick of trying to organize under very difficult conditions in the South at a specific time. Do you have thoughts about the union movement in this broader sense, the labor movement in this broader sense that you could comment upon? Thanks very much.
I'm reluctant to say too much because I haven't been that involved with, I was with Unite Here on the Public Review Board for a number of years. But it's pretty clear that the unions do not have the strength that they've had in the past. All the factors mitigating against that, there are other people who probably are more qualified and positioned to speak to that. I do think a capitalist-inspired campaign has gone on to undermine unions and to diminish their power. We're in a so-called right-to-work state, which means that the unions can't collect money from the members of the union that they protect. All those kinds of laws, I think, are undermining the union and union strength. But I want to encourage you, and I want to encourage anybody in a union, that you've got to struggle, and the union can't just be an appendage of the Democratic Party. It has to have a creative program to do the work that workers need to get done. And so that's all. I don't feel like I have much more to say about that, but I believe in unions. I've supported them. I've been a member of unions, and I want to see them do better.
So I'm going to move into a discussion piece of this. My work largely has been in the U.S. labor movement, and I love that movement. I retired from there in 2013, at the AFL-CIO. So I love the union movement, I love the labor movement. The labor movement has been undermined significantly, both by law and practice, and it's been clearly attacked, and it continues to be attacked every single day. That said, I think and we've got very strong brothers and sisters across this country that love and work in unions every single day to make life better for them and their colleagues and their co-workers every day. There are strong union leaders coming up who are trying to make changes. I do think that what the labor movement has to do is to understand its place in the social justice movement. The labor movement sees itself as a movement, and it is a movement, but it's not the movement. And until the labor movement can get joined together with other movements, joined together with communities, we can't be strong. There's no reason why we can't understand the lessons from our brothers and sisters in the 20s and 30s when unions were unions, and so we have to do that. And those of us who are union members inside, we have to fight like hell to keep our union strong, and we have to fight with our leaders to make it strong. So this is an important question, because as we look to build movements, the unions have been a big piece of that. You know, we've looked to it for a lot of reasons, for folks, for resources, for anchoring, and that's important, and we've got to shore our unions up. And so this country and our movement we're trying to build will be stronger and stronger if we build that labor movement in the way it needs to go. So yes, I think that the labor movement is great, and we have to make it greater and greater, or we're going to still be in tough times, and they will be in tough times.
Is it concluding time? Huh? Is it concluding time?
So I think that we'll have to close this program. There will be time to talk, for people to talk to each other at the end of this. I know that Madeline, who's here, will talk to people who are in New York who want to, connect and be connected around other activities. And
I think we should do this again next year.
So
expand it.
we want to do that, and so people who want to do that should find Madeline and give her your name, and we can do stuff in New York. And I thank you for that. So I think we're at a close. I wonder if anybody would like to have closing statements before we end this part of the program.
You didn't say brief closing statement.
Oops. Anybody on this panel who wants to make a brief closing statement? Thank you so much. See, this is family right here. This is really family. So anybody that wants to do that.
I want to extend an invitation.
That's right.
And that invitation is for all of you and your friends and family to come to Greensboro, November 1st through 3rd. And where we will be gathered with some of our other friends and people in Greensboro and around the country, perhaps beyond, to have a deeper and more extended conversation about the lessons. 40 years later, you see a display. That's the masthead from a website, and it's Greensboro Massacre Lessons Today, that you can go to and get updated information. But really hope you will come. We will have more conversation, opportunity to meet one another. We'll have some cultural expressions. Some of our young folk in particular have gone on and really made their mark that way, but they're still politically anchored. And for some people in Greensboro who saw this on TV, it used to be run every year, to continue to push in the false narrative, they will get a chance to find out what really happened in their towns. So I invite you to come to Greensboro.
Great.
Thank you.
And I want to thank the people for sponsoring this thing. I didn't expect it to be the kind of reunion that it is, but it's a reunion and a union. Meeting new people for the first time. I'm very grateful, and I thank you very much for your having us and giving us this opportunity.
Ditto. I do want to mention one thing I think is of substance. We were in a very bad situation. The widows did more time in jail than did the Klan. The organizers of the march were all locked up. I was once under twice the bond of any Klansman. It was for a short period. We had a black judge, a woman, who actually threw the thing out. All of that's to say that when you're in that kind of situation, you have to develop something creative and new. That's the point I want to make. It's in that context that the truth process emerged. What do you do when your city government openly denounced you, the police openly pronounce you, allies are confused and fearful, and then you are cornered and have to stand up in the court and speak out in front of the judge just to stop a total railroad? Well, for us, we got hooked up with international friends, Peru and South Africa and different places, and we worked hard in the base of the community to build the basement of a truth process. It wasn't just some smart people ran into town and did this. This grew out of the resurrection of the work that we had been doing, and it was not something we knew how to do, but we knew how to find the people who knew how to help us to do it. So we went to Peru, and South Africa came to us. So I just want to leave by saying that I'm not sure what period we're in now. I think that there is a tremendous negative energy out here which is going to stir up more and more positive energy, but then you got to figure out how to guide that energy so that it doesn't turn on itself. And I just want to say, we learned that lesson. We had to keep, somebody broke into a preacher's church. He was my closest friend. And they told him that Communist Workers' Party did that. When I went to talk to him, he had 2 policemen beside him sitting in his pastor's seat. And we were up against that kind of stuff. So I'm saying that the nation now is drifting in a dangerous direction. And it's people in this room and people like the people in this room who can't just do the same old thing. What is it that's arising now on the horizon that might be different and new? Not to throw the old things away, but to be open to creative new stuff that has to happen in order to bend the moral arc and lead us out of this wilderness into a beautiful new place.
Everybody. I want to thank the People's Forum for this wonderful space and this wonderful day.